Hello and welcome to the first class of a series of videos on lessons for school under the Chess for Change program. Now, what are we going to learn from this series of videos? We shall be learning how to play chess properly, how to think better in chess. And as and when you go through all the videos one by one, these sessions will actually teach you how to think better, not only in chess but also in lives. You shall be coming across various strategies, various tricks, and various ways of how to think better. Well, in the first class or the first session, we shall be learning about the rules of chess, the fundamentals of chess. I have visited most of your schools, and this will be a repetition of what I have taught in the schools. For those who were absent during my visit or those who are totally new to chess, this class is going to be very important because you'll be learning the basic rules of chess. And you shall be learning how to play chess in less than half an hour. Just watch this video carefully. Well, for some of you, this will be a repetition because you already know how to play chess and you have been taught in schools, or maybe you remember my lecture during your school visit. But for others, this will be very important. So let's start. Okay, the name of the game which we are going to study, the sport, is chess. And you are all aware the game chess was invented in India thousands of years ago. It is one of the most widely played sports in the world today. Almost all the countries play chess. And it is one of the few sports where the Indians are dominating nowadays. Okay, the name of the game is chess, and the name of these small uh, material you find on the chessboard, collectively they are called chessmen in English, or sometimes we refer to them as pieces. So these are either chessmen or chess pieces. And there are totally, if you count how many chessmen are there, so white will have 16 chessmen and black has 16 chessmen. So total number of chessmen are 32. And a chessboard is checkered. That means there are white and black, or light or dark, small squares all over the chessboard. Total number of squares are 64. If you look at the board carefully, you will find that you can categorize the chessboard or the squares into these lines, the columns or the vertical lines and the horizontal lines. Okay, these horizontal lines I'm marking in red. Totally there are 8 horizontal and 8 vertical lines on a chessboard. So what are the vertical lines called? They are called files. These green lines which I am drawing, these are named files, and the sideways, these red lines, these are the ranks. So totally there are 8 ranks and 8 files on a chessboard. Now let's move to the next important moment, that is how to remember the names of all the squares. All the 64 squares have a unique name, and these squares, it's very easy to remember the names of all the squares. How do we remember? Well, before remembering the names of squares, let's remember the names of files and ranks. The player who plays with white pieces or white chessmen, from his left side, the corner file is always called or named A file. And this will be B, and subsequently this is C, this is D. All the files are named A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and this corner file is named H. So these are names of 8 files which I'm marking in green, and these are named from A to H. Now, the names of ranks are also quite easy to remember. It's always counted from white's side. The first rank or the sideways row is always named 1. This is the first rank. This is the second rank. You can also see that at the side of the chessboard, there's a small marking 1, 2, 3, 4. So these are basically names of the ranks. And behind you can see A, B, C, D at the bottom of the chessboard. So these are basically names or markings of the files. So files are named from A to H, ranks are named from 1 to 8. Okay, so and now to learn the names of squares, whenever you have to name a square, name the file first, rank next. So this is G file and this is 4th rank. So it's G4, the name of this square. What is this? This will be C6. Okay, C file, 6th rank. That way all the squares will have a unique name. No other square will have 2 names. Okay, one name for one square only. And by the way, it's very important to remember that whenever we arrange a chess board, we have to make sure that we have white color square at the right corner of us. So we are playing with white, and on the right hand side we have a light square or a white square. The same applies to black. Here on his right side he also has a white square or a light square. Okay, so both sides, only then you can say the chess set is properly placed. Okay, otherwise a chessboard, if you sit in such a manner that you have a dark square or black square on the right side, then you have to again set the chessboard right properly and start playing. So just remember this, the right placement of chessboard, names of the files, names of the ranks, names of the squares. And now let's learn the names of the chessmen or chess pieces. Okay, the tallest, the biggest chessman on a chessboard with a cross on its head is king. Okay, the name of this chessman is the king. And next to the king, you find another chessman. It's also quite tall. Well, on a chessboard on computer screen, it seems all chessmen are of equal size. But when you play them practically, I mean with hands and with a proper chess set, then you will find that some chessmen are actually taller and bigger than the others. The king is the tallest. The next big is this one with a different type of crown on the head, and this is called the queen. So at the start of a game we have one king, one queen for both sides. Next to the king and queen you have 2 chessmen with a circular shape. These are called, or these are named, the bishops. So both sides have 2 bishops each at the start of the game. Then we have a horse shaped chessmen, 2 for each side. They are called knights. Not horses, but knights. In English it's knights. In all other languages which I know, it's horse. But in English we call them knights. Because in English they say they are chessmen. So we don't name animals. The warriors who ride horses, they are called knights. So that is why these are knights. And at the corner you have this shape, 2 chessmen, these are called rooks. So both sides will have 2 chessmen at the corner looking like a tower, a tall tower, but these are called rooks. And in the front you have 8 small chessmen for both sides. These are called, or these are named pawns. P-A-W-N-S. So the names, to repeat, this is the king, the queen, two bishops, two knights, two rooks, and 8 pawns for each side. Okay, so we have learned the names of the squares, we have learned the names of the chessmen. Now let's understand, or let's learn the movement of chessmen. Okay, this is the most important moment where you learn the rules of chessmen, and if you remember the movement of chessmen, you will learn how to play chess. Well, actually, when we play a match between a player who has white chessmen and another player who has black chessmen, the rules is that white makes the first move and then black replies. Again white moves, again black moves. So both sides keep on altering moves till the end of the game. One side wins a game, the side which traps the opponent king or imprisons the opponent's king basically wins the game. Okay, that is the rule of chess. So during the fight, when white and black are playing alternatively, the players use their mind to find out which move is the best. And it's like a war game where you can actually kill or capture the enemy chessmen or enemy pieces. Okay, so we shall be learning how the chessmen move, how they capture the enemy chessmen. Now each chessman moves differently, and as a player you have full freedom of making any move of your choice. Okay, you can move any chessman, but every chessman has its own specialities. And finally, when you surround your opponent's king and capture it, king is not captured but king is trapped, then you manage to win the game. Now let's learn how each chessman moves. We start with the rook. The rook is placed in the corner at the start of the game, but suppose a rook is here and you feel like moving a rook. How would you move? It moves straight. It moves up, down, right and left, as many squares you wish. Okay, if you feel that moving one square is good for you, then you're welcome to move one square. If you feel no, moving 4 squares is best, then you can move 4 squares. If you feel moving in front is good, you are free to do so. So if you feel moving behind is good, that's also okay. So it's your freedom to move your rook as you like, as you wish, as many squares possible, provided it has to be straight along the lines, along the files, along the ranks. And how does it capture enemy pieces? Well, a rook can capture any opponent piece or enemy piece which stands on its way. It can capture the first piece which stands on its way. So for example, in this situation, a rook can move straight, but there's an enemy piece in front of it. Now it can capture the first one, not behind it. A rook cannot jump. So here, when it captures, it will move here and it will sit on the square where the enemy piece was, and the enemy piece will be taken out of the chessboard. Okay, as if the rook has eaten that or killed it. And another point to note is a rook cannot jump. For instance, in this position, this rook cannot move sideways and forward because the path is blocked. Okay, it cannot jump over it and move here. No. First you have to clear the path. Only then a rook can move. Now let's move to how a bishop can move. Now unlike a rook, bishop doesn't move straight. It moves diagonally. Diagonal means any straight line but in such a way that all the colors are of, all the squares are of same color. For example, a bishop here can move straight along black squares only. Okay, the other bishop, this one, can move straight. I mean, straight means diagonally, slantingly, but along white squares only. It can move any number of squares, and just like a rook, it can capture the opponent piece, the first piece which stands on its way. It can capture this or this, but never, it cannot jump and capture something which is behind it. So this is how a bishop moves. It moves diagonally, as many squares in front, behind, everywhere. Okay, now a bishop moves diagonally, a rook moves straight. Now let's learn how to move a queen. Having learned how a bishop and rook moves, it's easy to learn how a queen moves. Well, a queen moves exactly the way how a rook and bishop moves. So it's like combining rook and bishop. That is how a queen moves. So a queen is quite powerful because it has the power of moving like a rook as well as moving like a bishop. So from this point, a queen can actually move straight, behind just like a rook, on the right, on the left, as many squares it wishes to. And it can also move diagonally like a bishop, as many squares as it wishes. Okay, so a queen moves like a rook, like a bishop. If you understand the movement of rook and bishop, it's very easy to understand the movement of queen. Just like a bishop and rook, it cannot jump. Okay, and it's a very powerful chess man because it has a combined strength of both rook and a bishop. Now let's move to the next position. Here, okay, we are learning how a pawn moves. Till now what we have learned, how a rook moves, how a bishop moves, how a queen moves. We still have quite a few chessmen, pawn, knight and king. How does a pawn move? It's quite simple. Pawn moves one square forward. Only one square forward. Forward for white is this direction and forward for black is this direction. Right? It is the only chessman which cannot move behind, back or sideways. It can move only straight forward, only one square. But then there are three conditions or additional rules you have to learn in order to know how a pawn moves. Now, what are the three additional rules? The first rule is a pawn can, when it moves for the first time, see at the start of a game, the pawns are arranged this way. Along the second rank for white, seventh rank for black. Now, when a pawn moves forward, the first time when each pawn moves, it has an option of moving either one square or two squares. Okay, the same for black. This can also move one square or two square according to whatever you feel is better for you. You have a full choice of choosing between one or two squares. So even moving two squares is considered to be one move. In one move, it can jump two squares. Now, this is the first additional rule which you have to know. That first time when it moves differently from how it moves the rest of the game. Now, the second thing which you have to know about pawns is, unlike the other chessmen, let's assume pawns are facing each other. Now, I told you pawns move one square forward only. Now, this pawn, according to what I had said previously, this pawn is eligible to move one square forward and capture or eat the enemy pawn, isn't it? But the rules of chess doesn't say so. Pawns are the only chessmen which move straight but captures diagonally, like a bishop 1 square forward. It moves forward 1 square and captures 1 square on both sides, on both directions, but diagonally. If this is the scenario, both the pawns are blocked, because even for black, he will be capturing this way. So both the pawns cannot move forward, they are blocked. Let's assume that white plays this move and black plays this move. Now both the sides can capture these pawns. Okay, white can capture this pawn, black can also capture this pawn, or maybe move forward. But they can't. In this situation, both the pawns are blocked. Nobody can capture each other. So now that we know how a pawn moves, first time it can move 2 moves or 1 moves, and also how it captures, there's a third additional rule we have to learn regarding pawns. Now, when a pawn keeps on moving forward, and suppose it reaches the last rank, okay, for black, this pawn reaches last. Now, beyond this, the pawn cannot move, right? But what happens is, when a pawn reaches the last rank or the final rank, the pawn gets rewarded. We call it promoted. Okay, a pawn after reaching the last rank changes to whatever you ask. It's like a metamorphosis where a pawn after reaching the last rank, you will choose between either a queen or a bishop or a knight or a rook. Out of these 4 chess pieces or chessmen, you will get a reward by replacing a pawn with one of these pieces. Okay, so suppose a pawn reaches here and you ask for another queen. You will be having a second chess queen on a board. So one queen is here, the other queen will be here. Okay, or you may ask for a knight, so you can have the third knight. Okay, that way you will be rewarded with whatever you wish among these 4 chessmen. Okay, now we move to knight movement. How does a knight move? Okay, let's assume a knight is here and you wish to move this knight. A knight moves like the English alphabet L. Now this is L. 2 squares, one direction, and then 1 square sideways. This is L. So a knight will move directly like this. It won't move straight, it won't move diagonally, it moves like L. Now if the knight wants to move this side, you can place this L in, here, this is also L. So a knight can move L like this, or maybe you wish to move this way, sideways L, that's also possible. This side or this side, knight can either go here or here. 2 squares straight, 1 square side. 2 squares straight, 1 square side. Or you can make an L even this way. Okay, so a knight can go to this square, or this square, or this square, or this square, or even here, here, or it can even capture the opponent pawn by sitting on the square where it wants to go. Just like a rook or a bishop or a queen, if its path is blocked by opponent chess piece or chessman, the knight can simply go and capture that chessman. So this is how knight captures. Okay, and remember, knights are the only chessmen which can actually jump. For example, this knight sitting on this square can actually jump over this pawn and go to this. It can move like L and sit here. So knights, being horses, are the only chessmen which can actually jump. And when can't a knight move? Well, let's assume the knight wants to move here, like L. 2 squares this, Two squares here and one square sideways. It won't be able to move here because the square is occupied by our own pawn. So whenever our own chessmen are sitting on a square, the knight can't go and sit on the same square. So this is how a knight moves. And finally, we shall be learning how a king moves, because kings are the most important chessmen. Remember, while winning, what is the aim of a chess game? Objective of a chess game is to trap or imprison the king. So that's why king's movement are very, very important. Okay, it's very simple. Okay, kings can move one square in all directions, just one square. So it is probably the simplest to learn how a king moves. Kings, like other chessmen, can also capture opponent chess pieces or chessmen. So if anything stands on the way of the king can simply go. Suppose this pawn is here, the king can capture the pawn. But now comes the most important moment of the whole class, that is how to finish a game and what are the special or additional rules regarding king. The most important additional rule is kings are not permitted to sit on a square where it is attacked. For example, from this situation, king is not permitted to go to this square because this square is controlled, or these opponent's pawn can actually capture the king. Now remember the rule, kings are the only chessmen which cannot be captured. Kings can capture other chessmen, but kings cannot be captured. Now, if the king goes here, opponent will say, you can't stay here because I will capture you. So this is how a king is not permitted to move to this square. It is not permitted to move to this square. It is not permitted to move to this square because if it goes here, these two pawns will capture the king. Even the knight will capture the king. The same applies for this square. These two pawns will capture the king. So the kings can't move forward in this particular situation because it will be captured on those squares. So as per rule, you are not even permitted or allowed to play those moves. If you play this by mistake, the match referee or the arbiter will come and ask you to make some other move. This will be considered to be illegal move. Now, what if it's black to play and black plays this move, attacking the king? Black will say that the king is not permitted to stay here because it's under attack. So move away. In language of chess, we call it check. Get out from here because I'm attacking you. This is not... Now where will the king go? King cannot go here because the pawn or the bishop can capture. King cannot go here because both pawns and knights can capture. King can't go here because the bishop will capture. So king has to go to a safe square where it cannot be captured. So that is the speciality of kings. Kings always have to be on safe squares. They can't be captured, but if they are trapped, then it's game over. For instance, in this situation, it's black to play. Black plays this move and says, check, go away. Now white says, I will capture you. Black says, no, you can't capture because you will be captured. This square is also under attack, so you can't go here. White says, I capture this knight. Black says, no, the pawn will capture you. White says, I go forward. Black says, no, the bishop is here. You are not permitted to go there. White says, I captured this. Black says, no. White says, I move here. Black says, no, because my knight will capture you. White says, I'll play here. Black says, no, the pawn will kill you. Here, this pawn. Here, this pawn. The king can't go anywhere. All the squares are controlled by black. And there's also a check. So there's a check and the king can't go to any square. The game is over. We call it checkmate. met or the king is trapped. Okay, that is how a chess game ends. So by this we have almost covered 90% of chess rules. There are some special rules which we shall be covering in the next class, because it will get too confusing for you if you learn everything at once. And I hope you have learned the basics of chess. In the next class, we shall be doing some special rules, and we shall also be learning how to note down the moves of chess. That's all from me today. Stay tuned, and we shall be learning a lot more about chess in subsequent classes. Goodbye.